Welcome back. You have made it to Living Limitless, Play Your Way to Freedom. We are joining with you as you connect, play, and awaken your power, freedom, and expansiveness. Today, I am so excited to share with you this chat that I'm having with Janet Ottersberg. If you don't know her already, Janet is a life and wellness coach and occupational therapist with more than 30 years of experience working with clients to optimize their health and happiness. She has helped her clients change their lifestyle and overcome cancer, autoimmune disorders, autism, developmental delays, and ADHD. Janet is passionate about life balance, and when she's not doing the work she loves, she can be found on a dance floor or traveling to another country or hiking. You can follow Janet's work and services at ottersbergcoaching.com. So, Janet, I'm so excited that you were able to make it here with us today. I'm so excited that you're generously sharing your time and your skills, your toolbox. I would love to hear in your own words a little bit more about your work and what inspires you to stay in this work.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here with you. So, my work is I am a life and wellness coach and an occupational therapist, and I have the amazing opportunity to work with clients from neonates to centenarians. So, I work with all ages of people. I work with clients as a life and wellness coach and working with families with kids with special needs, as well as working with cancer patients. And as an occupational therapist, I work in a private practice and also work with kids in the school system.
Outstanding. And which aspect really lights you up?
All of it lights me
All
up.
of it. All of it.
Yeah, and there was a time in my career where it didn't always light me up, but I'm at a place now where I feel like everything that I do lights me up. It all has its own special place.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Do you
Mm.
feel as though you received messages throughout your life, like inklings of what you were going to be called to do, what you were going to be called to study and offer, your gifts? Or did you have breakdowns to break through? Or is it a combination of both? I'd love to hear about your journey.
That's such a great question. And I would say that it was a combination of both. When I was a child, I grew up in a family of 10 kids, and I always was a loner. I always
Mm,
wanted to be away from all the hubbub of being in that big family, and felt from early on that I was a quiet, deep listener. And that's where I felt really safe, was
mm,
in a quiet space and being a deep listener to people, even when I was very young. And so that definitely inspired the work that I do. From very early on, I knew that I wanted to be a helper in some way.
mhm.
And so as a child, I was sure I was going to be a doctor and wanted to work with kids and be a pediatrician. And so I was inspired to be in the healthcare field in that way, but also inspired by other family members that went into the healthcare field and education. And so it was ingrained to me from early on that I was a helper. And so that was part of my inspiration. Um, as I grew older and started experiencing life, there was a lot of things that inspired what I do now. And one of those things was watching my oldest brother be diagnosed at a very, very early age with pancreatic cancer, and watching his journey of not doing the conventional method of treatment for cancer, and seeing him take all these other alternative methods and ways of treating cancer and being very successful with it. He lived 24 years beyond his initial diagnosis of 2 months to live with pancreatic cancer. So that was a huge inspiration for me. Um, I was also inspired by being a single parent. So when I was in college, um, I became a single parent. Not sure how that happened. But that definitely inspired my career path, and that I needed to start working and being able to take care of my child as soon as possible. And so that led me into this field of occupational therapy, because I had somebody say to me, "Hey, you would be great as an occupational therapist." And I looked into it, and I had already taken all of the courses that you need to be an occupational therapist, and had people pushing me to continue schooling and get my degree as a single parent. So all those people in my life that were that believed in me and pushed me into that were also an inspiration to me. So, yeah, my daughter inspired me to be the best provider that I could for her.
Mhm.
So that was also an inspiration.
Yeah, I'm hearing, I know we already talked about the question about resilience and creativity, but
Mhm.
I'm hearing such a strong sense of resilience in you, and also some creative problem solving in regards to, I want to be the provider, and also medical school will be like 10 more years of moving forward. And so I love how that shifted you into blossoming into this amazing field where you get to really be the deep listener and really be the helper. And then you got to spend more time with your child as well.
Yeah,
Amazing. Amazing. Do you feel as though creativity and resilience are linked?
absolutely. Absolutely. And the creative problem solving is a big part of that, but also just having creativity in your life
Yeah.
leads to this lightness and this ability to look between the lines to find those places to make it work.
Yeah. I hear that. Um, just walking outside can help us hit the reset button and be more resilient in our work, or spending some time crafting. Or I have one of those adult coloring books with
Yes.
it's a mandalas, and get out the colored pencils. I find it's especially fun when I'm in the passenger seat and we're on a long road trip. That's definitely, it's like audiobook, like really good audiobook, and then like the coloring just feels like, I think that's my happy place. That's one of my happy places, is like really juicy audiobook. Excuse me. With the colored pencils.
Yeah. And
So
I think it's that act of coming back to a childlike state that creates expansiveness in our brain. You know,
mm,
so you think back to when you were a child, you weren't thinking about, what do I have to buy? You know, what is my grocery list, and what is the future going to hold, and all of these things. So there's so
mhm.
much freedom as a child that you have in your thoughts and your dreams, and that creativity kind of brings us back to that state of childlike awe and wonder.
Yeah. So it kind of recharges us. And I liked what you said about bringing in the light, and that is like our childlike nature. It seems as though when, you meet a toddler and they're just so bright, their eye contact is so strong, their eyes are so wide. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really hear that.
Yeah.
Well, you have so much expertise, and I know that a lot of us are, stuck at home right now with the same people every day, possibly doing homeschooling as well. Our favorite places are not accepting large groups of people, or maybe we're not ready to be around large groups of people because we want to be safe. So, anywho, I'm feeling as though a lot of us are experiencing this topic in our industry called triggers. How do you define a trigger? How do you move through a triggering situation? And maybe how do you guide your clients to do so? I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah. So a trigger to me is something that takes you out of your heart space
Mm,
and takes you into a reactive state. So one of the best ways I think to not be triggered, we're always going to be triggered. So let me take that back. One of the best ways to reduce how quickly we're triggered is a preventative measure. So if we're always in a reactive state, if we're always living in that fight, flight, or freeze state, then we're going to be more quickly to trigger. We're going to be more quick to react to things. And so the first thing is to be in a calmer state, and to really practice being in a calmer state. So mindfulness techniques, being in the here and now, using meditation, yoga, exercise,
Mm,
communicating with people and communicating in a very authentic and deep way on a daily basis with those people that we love. Those are all things that will help us to be in a calmer state.
mm,
So that's one way to help with those triggers. But even if we're in a calm state, there's always going to be something that can set us off. And so one of the first things that I like to do when I feel that I'm being triggered is I like to take a deep breath. So I want to get back out of that reactive state and come back to more of a calm state.
mm. Yeah. And I understand that that is one of the things you might be open to demonstrating for us today, an aspect of your work that you could walk us through on live interview. Would you be open
Yeah,
for that?
I would love to do that.
Great.
Yeah, so let's do that. So when I do and teach deep breathing, I do this with all of my clients. So I do this with kids that are 4 years old. I do this with people that are 60 years old, and it works for everybody. Um,
Mm,
and it's just taking the time to take a deep breath, to breathe in deeper. Most of the time, we're breathing up high in our chest, and that doesn't help us to get into that more calm, relaxed state. And so we really want to focus on breathing deep into the diaphragm. And one of the ways that you know that you're breathing deep into the diaphragm is when you feel expansion below your chest. So if you're feeling your stomach expand, if you're feeling your bottom ribs expand, that's when you know that you're breathing deeper into the diaphragm and not just up into the chest. And you could even take your hand and place it on your chest. And as you breathe, just notice how much movement there is there.
mm,
So for most of us, this is where we're breathing. It's shallow. It's all happening right here. And then you can take your hand and place it on your belly. And
yeah.
notice when you breathe in, is there any
Yeah.
movement there at
Mm,
all? Not really.
mm,
So, as we do this deep breath, I want you to notice how much you're breathing into that bottom hand. So, we're going to breathe in for a count of four. We'll take just a moment at the top, and then we're going to exhale through the count of four. And as we breathe in, we're going to breathe in through the nose. And as we breathe out, we're going to blow it out through the lips like you're blowing out a birthday candle. Okay, so, we're going to take a deep breath in, hold, blow it out. Do three more. Take a deep breath in, hold, and out. Deep breath in, hold, and blow it out. One more time. Deep breath in, hold, and blow it out. And just keep your hands there for a moment as you come back to a natural breathing pattern. And then just allow your eyes to close softly for a moment and just notice anything you're feeling in your body. And then release your hands and gently open your eyes.
mm. I definitely felt a shift. That was so interesting because I think I was more chest breathing. And then
Mhm.
by the end, my lower hand was, really moving and my top hand wasn't moving as much. So that it, like it seemed like with every breath, it was getting more in the belly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want to happen.
Nice. So the deep breathing technique. Love it. That is really fun. Thank you so much for demonstrating a piece of your work that you share with your clients. I love that we're helping people build their toolboxes. So I'd love to talk about play. We've talked a bit about creativity and the childlike nature. We've talked about resilience, but how do you implement play in your life and your work to step into your power, your freedom, and your expansiveness?
That's a great question, and there's a lot of ways that I use play in my work. And because I work with kids, I
Mm,
have the opportunity every day to play, which is so much fun. So when I'm working with kids, we use play as a therapeutic tool.
mm,
So I get to dive in and play with kids all the time. And it's a little harder when you're doing that online, which all my work right now is online. And I've been amazed at how well it works. But even online, play can happen. So I'll use dance videos with kids and we'll be dancing on the screen. And we play games with each other, and we could even do that online. And so I have the opportunity to actually play and get back to that childlike state that I was talking about earlier, because that's what I'm doing with a lot of my clients. And I
mm,
try and bring that in with my adult clients as well, and them to a place of what's playful for them and how do they like to use play. And even just smiling, laughing, making jokes to help other people get into that aspect of play, in the conversation. Um, but for my own life, play for me is dance. And the minute I get on a dance floor or move to music, I am in my most playful, empowered, and open state ever. It just kind of happens for me in that place.
How are you
And
doing that during the pandemic? Can you tell us more?
yeah, I dance in my living room all the time.
Awesome.
um, and I also have been, I do a lot of partner dancing, and you can't do that right now, but I
Mhm.
can still practice. And so I practice tango steps with the broom, or or I also do flamenco dance, and so I practice my steps. Um, and I also dance with my daughter. I dance with my grandson. So any chance that I get, I'm dancing at home.
Wow, I love that. I miss partner dancing. I came from a long line of dancing, and then my husband was not as excited, new love, but in the new love phase, sure, I'll do this with you. And then you have kids, and then it kind of dies down for a little bit. But it's so interesting. This like one winter ago, it was okay. In the spring, we're signing up. We're going to get a babysitter and go back out and do couples dancing. And COVID. Now, granted, we could do that at home. There's so many YouTube videos that you could follow at home.
Yes.
A
Yeah.
light bulb just went off in my head.
Good. Good. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, I love that. So, yeah, that would just be, and what a great way to connect as well with your partner. Do something like, and I'm sure there are paid plans as well, but maybe there's like an 8 week, you know, flamenco course that you could do by video.
Yes. Yeah, there's lots of that out there.
Yeah.
The thing I love about partner dancing is the communication that's involved.
Mhm.
And so for people that are in relationship, to dance together, I think is so enriching to the communication.
Yeah. Yes, you're helping the light bulbs come on. So I thank you for sharing how you are incorporating play. And I love, I use Spotify right now, and I love having just a zillion playlists on my phone that it's not taking up the memory on my phone, but I can just play any playlist as long as I have internet service. make my own playlist and play it. So different moods, different things that I'm listening to, and getting up and dancing really does, get you back in your body, and then you can get back to the work after.
Yes. Yes.
So thank you for that. When I say the phrase living limitless, what comes forward for you?
For me, living limitless is not saying, well, let me start over again. Living limitless is being open to all opportunities. It's also being patient for your dreams,
Mm,
being persistent for your dreams, and looking beyond your own circumstances to make those dreams come true.
do you feel like you help your clients with that? And how
Yes.
so?
Yes, I help my clients with doing that through asking the right questions.
Mm,
Every client that I have has the answers within. And that to me is the beauty of the coaching practice,
mm,
that it's about empowering the client to come up with the answers because they're already there. They already have them. They know what they want. I can't tell them what they want or how they're going to get there. It's helping them to recognize that within themselves.
mm. I'm hearing that. And so, how about practices? I know earlier you mentioned a few techniques that we can utilize to be proactive about, we're everyone's going to experience triggers. It's part of being human. And yet there are practices we could bring into our lives make to make it so that we're not fully immersed in the upset when a triggering situation happens. Would you share with us some practices that you recommend or that you use in your daily life?
Yeah, absolutely. Meditation is a big one for me.
Mhm.
And meditation has always been difficult for me. And I'm more of a moving meditator. And so, exercise, walking, yoga, the asana practice has always been my best way to meditate.
Mm,
I can shut everything off when my body is moving, and dancing as well. Um, and I think it's also important to sit and meditate, sit and work to shut off the brain. And whether that be a 5-minute guided meditation or an hour long meditation, however that works for you, I think
mhm,
that is one of the number one things that we can do is really learn how to shut off the brain. um, Movement is big. Exercise, some people need to run, some people need to swim, whatever it is that helps your body to
mhm,
um, feel better is another one.
mhm,
Gratitude practice is huge, and whether it's just that you wake up in the morning and think about what you're grateful for, or you write it down in a journal. Journaling is another big one. So getting things out of your mind and onto paper helps come back to that calm state as well.
mhm,
Prayer for some people is really important, and I find prayer an important piece of my daily practice. And also eating well.
mhm,
And when I say eating well, um, eating organic, eating good, clean foods, so grass-fed beef, cutting out the sugar, cutting out those things that create an activated state in our body. So
yeah,
foods can be triggers. There's environmental factors that can be triggers. So things that we live with every day that can be triggers.
mm,
So all the technology that we have in our home can be a trigger in a different kind of way. And dyes and sugar and those kind of things can be triggers for
mm,
us. So trying to cut down on those sort of things. And as well as screen time. Facebook is definitely a trigger. And so I try and limit the amount of time that I'm on social media. And especially when things are really heightened, when there's a lot of things going on in the world, then
Mhm.
to me, that's a good time to do a detox from social media.
Yeah. Wow, it's interesting. Because I recently started drinking decaf coffee because and I do use the training wheels, so I have found some less, some plant-based sugar, but it's still probably doing the same thing to my bloodstream. And then caffeine as well, even though it says it's decaffeinated, it's
Mhm.
espresso beans. And so I have noticed that on the days that I have had that and maybe not enough food, my fuse, like my ability to stay calm in a situation that isn't going the way I planned, I noticed that the fuse is shorter, or I'm not as. It seems like I'm not as able to step into, my values. It's more like I'm reacting to the trigger, because I have put things in my body that are, I don't know, not allowing the synapses to fire in the right
Yeah,
way or in the way
yeah,
that I want them to. Yeah. Do you
yeah.
go ahead?
Oh, I was just going to say, I've a lot of information around like dyes and those kind of things in our food and refined foods have been described as setting our brain on fire.
Mm,
So, yeah, definitely hard to be in a calm state when your brain is on fire.
yeah. That's a good way of
Yeah,
putting that. I know. And then
yeah.
we think we're doing all the right things. I was talking to another expert who is it's all about removing toxins. That is the work that we get to do, is start reading labels and get really aware of the toxins that we're dumping into ourselves. And what she pointed out, which I thought was really interesting, is that a lot of us see like natural on, like a cleaner. Let's say it's natural cleaner, so you think I'm making a good choice for my family and my livelihood because it says natural, and then you look at it more carefully, and I'm not sure where they got the word natural, because it's natural, like man-made products. So
Exactly.
natural
Yeah.
chemicals.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's always like reading that fine print. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not just on contracts and those sort of things where we need to read the fine print. It's
yeah,
everything. We need to read that
right.
fine print. Yeah.
Yeah, and then looking up those ingredients. That's always so
Yes.
interesting. Oh, and then it was mentioned to me. This just feels like a win that I want to share, because I feel like your work is calling this forward out of me. And she was mentioning, instead of using even Windex, to think about what did our grandmothers use, or what did our great grandmothers use when they were cleaning. Their houses were clean, and all of these chemicals were not, um, they weren't as broad, they weren't as widely in the home.
Yes.
And so she was talking about, vinegar and baking soda and just the things that are naturally occurring that are not toxic, and that we could really serve ourselves by taking a few minutes to combine a couple of things and putting them in a spray bottle, instead of buying something in a spray bottle once a month that is just filling your home with poison.
Right. Right. Environmental triggers.
Yeah.
And I love that you said about what would your grandmother have used, because I like to use that statement as well for food. Like, what would your grandmother have eaten? You would
Mm.
not have gotten your grandmother eating Twinkies because
Or
that wasn't
Cheetos.
food back then. That wasn't
Right.
food.
Right.
So
Right.
eat what your grandparents would have eaten,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
whole food.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
so true. Yeah, my mom or my grandmother made cakes from scratch. Like, she didn't even get like pre-mixed anything. We
Yeah.
probably don't know what's in the mixes, read the fine print, but yeah, just flour and sugar and whatever. But yeah, so things were from scratch back then, instead of
Yeah.
pre-packaged and with a paragraph of ingredients. Here are
Of
potato chips, but
ingredients that you can't even
this is what's in your
pronounce.
potato chips. A
Right.
paragraph of fine print. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I really appreciate that, and I'm glad that you brought that up, reducing screen time and reducing environmental triggers, that those are some of the steps that we can take. Those are practices we can bring in that can keep us resonating at a higher vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah, being more present. Yes. So this has been just such an amazing conversation. I'm tempted to almost go back and say, are there any barriers that you have come across in your life? I loved what you were saying about living limitless, that living limitless is really about l- reaching to your potential and not letting things, not letting a lot of what we tell ourselves, not letting our limiting beliefs hold us
Yes.
back, really
Yes.
reaching and striving for that potential, that dream that we have. Were there, I know you shared a couple of the barriers that you hit in your life, like in college, but after you were out in the world and in your career and in your field, did you have others that rocked the boat? And I know you said that you watched your brother move through his cancer diagnosis in a really powerful but holistic way, like not the traditional medical way.
Yeah. Yeah. I had lots of barriers, and I like to see them as things that push me forward as opposed to
Mm,
barriers. So
mm,
just want to say that. And that's sort of been my practice, is looking at things as not necessarily a barrier, but how can I move through this? So what lesson can I learn from this? But it was definitely a barrier to my career as I was a single parent. Um, because I wanted to be there for my child. And so every time something changed in her life, I would change my job to meet the needs of my daughter. Um, and so I don't see it as a barrier, but I didn't climb the ladder in my career, or I didn't do some of the things that I wanted to do initially in my career because I was working to meet her needs.
mm,
And I was so happy to have this career as an occupational therapist because we're so flexible in the work that we do. We can work in hospitals and outpatient clinics and schools and all these different places. So it allowed me the ability to jump from one situation to the next. And because I jumped from one situation to the next to meet her schedule,
mm,
it gave me such a rich background because I've worked in every way possible as an occupational therapist, which has been amazing. And so I didn't
mm,
climb the career ladder and become an administrator because I was always moving around, but I've done everything that you absolutely can as an occupational therapist, which has been amazing, and given me the background that I have now. So I'm really
mm,
grateful for that. I hurt myself a couple times. I had a car accident where I had whiplash. That changed the trajectory of my career because I could no longer work in the hospital where I was lifting people. I hurt my back at one time working. And so that changed the way I was doing my career. And so I had to do more, other things where I wasn't being so physical. But then that led me to yoga, to my yoga practice. And I became a yoga instructor and add that to what I do now in my career. Um, yeah, just there's been so many twists and turns along the way, and every one of them has brought different blessings and a different kind of richness to the work that I do now. Um, and there was a point where I got really burned out as an occupational therapist, and so I was trying to find every way possible to get out. So I went to massage school and thought I would be a yoga instructor and do all these different things, and that led me to coaching, um, which again has been such a blessing. But I've continued to bring it back to the work that I do rather than get out of the field,
mm,
and bringing all of those things together and having a career that I made for myself as opposed to working for somebody else has really brought me back to my first love of occupational therapy. And so I can combine all of those things in a way that works for me and my clients.
Mm, wow. I'm not only hearing resilience, but I'm hearing like a taking a barrier or taking a challenge or a crux in the road and turning it into how what am I meant to learn here? Or how can I use this to help me grow? At least that's what I'm and I know that each of us gets to it's so easy to go into the victim mindset of, "Oh my gosh, this is happening to me. This is the worst thing ever. My life is over. I'm gonna fall into depression now," which is okay to have that happen and to feel your feelings, of course, and be in your experience. And yet also, can we look at this as, how am I gonna grow through this?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm definitely hearing growing through it, and that you got to show up for your daughter, and then when health ailments happened, that you're able to always shift.
Yeah. And then I got to show up for myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love that. Brene Brown has this amazing quote that hope is hope is having a plan B, like the creation and the having of plan B when plan A doesn't work out. And that a lot of times we're teaching our children that they're learning from us, from our reactions to when plan A doesn't work out. How do we behave? How do we show them that, like, this the really hard thing happened and daddy had a big disappointment at work, and I'm sad about it and I'm upset that it didn't work out, and this is how I'm shifting.
Yeah.
I'm looking over here and I'm creating something different that's still going to serve me and serve our family and serve the people that I serve at my work, through my work. And we all get to bring that forward a bit more of showing that we are human instead of just like, you know, my parents were like, oh, that bad thing happened, but we're not going to talk about it.
Exactly. And I think you made such a good point about feeling the feelings. And yeah, there may be depression and there may be really sad days, and it's not like there wasn't losses and you just, put on a happy face and kept moving.
Mm,
You feel those losses and you let that integrate within you and then move forward.
mm,
And that's such an important piece in the process is feeling those feelings but not staying in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
outstanding. I am so excited to continue to follow you and experience more of your work. My family had some. We could use some occupational therapy, and I'd love to talk more about that. And I would love for our viewer, our listener, to experience your work on a more deep level as well. And I understand that you have a perk or a gift that you would like to share.
Yes, I do. So I'll be sharing an ebook and it's called Breaking the Sugar Habit. So it's just teaching easy ways to start to reduce sugar in your diet.
Mm. So I hope, audience member, that you will click below and reach out for that free gift from Janet. And so, Janet, I believe there is someone watching right now whose life is going to shift beyond into an amazing level if they work with you. They reach out to you, they pull you in to work with them. What would you like to say to that person?
I would like to say to that person that you have the answers within, and it's just a matter of diving deep and finding those answers. They're already there.
Mm. Thank you. Janet, you have been so generous with your time and your toolbox, your gifts. Thank you for sharing them with us. And audience member, everyone who's listening, this has been Living Limitless. Play your way to freedom with Andrea Luzon. I can't wait for you to join us again next time.
Bye.